The stream is live.
Right. Yeah. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you are joining us from, across the United Kingdom, across Nigeria, across the global Nigerian diaspora. You are welcome. Today's conversation is not just another live stream. Today, we are talking about real pain, real courage, and real hope. We are talking about children, families, parents who lie awake at night searching for answers. We are talking about individuals who carry invisible struggles and yet chose to turn their pain into purpose. My name is Otunba Anthony Oluwafemi Kolade, and I warmly welcome you to Nigerian Community Chronicle Podcast Live, NCCP Live. Thank you for being here. Today's theme is powerful, from personal pain to purpose. This is a conversation about scoliosis awareness, advocacy, and support. But more importantly, it is a conversation about human strength, community, and healing. Today's show is structured into 3 engaging segments. In the first segment, we introduce our guests and understand their journeys. In the second segment, we explore deeper questions to build awareness and confidence. Then in the third segment, we open the floor to you. Yes, I mean, to you watching right now. You can call in and join us live or drop your questions and comments in the chat. So please stay with us because this is not just our conversation. It is your conversation too. It is with great honor to welcome Abimbola Oladapo, a writer, advocate, and co-founder of Beyond a Curved Spine, Nigeria's foremost organization dedicated to scoliosis, awareness, support, and patient empowerment. Our personal journey with scoliosis did not end in pain. It became a movement. Abimbola, you are most welcome to NCCP Live.
Thank you.
Also, we have Chidi joining us today. Mr. Chidi Umeano, a global consultant, a respected leader, and most importantly, a father whose daughter recently underwent scoliosis surgery here in the UK. His journey reminds us that behind every medical condition is a family story. Sir, you are most welcome.
Thank you so much, Otunba. It's a pleasure to be here, to be with you and to be with Abimbola. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Abimbola, let us begin with you. Take us back to when this journey started. When did you first realize that scoliosis will become part of your life story?
Right. So, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. When did I realize I got diagnosed when I was 11. I was in secondary school. I remember my sister used to say to me that she'd say, "Oh, you're doing guy. You're going to spoil your posture. You're doing guy. Stop doing guy." When I was walking, and I didn't understand what doing guy was because I'm like, I'm not doing guy. Like, this is me. But then she kept saying I was doing guy, and I was in boarding house. So then I went to boarding house and I came back home, and then she goes, "Oh, what's wrong with your back? It looks very funny." And then so we went to the hospital, like, "Oh, something's wrong with her back." And then that's the first time anybody in my family or myself would hear like scoliosis. And so I got that, when I was 11.
Oh, fantastic. So then at what moment did pain begin to transform, into purpose for you?
Well, I wouldn't say that it was a moment, but I think it was a culmination of moments. So after I got diagnosed, it was like I can say there was literally no information. There was no resource. There was no information about and it's not like now you can just Google stuff or ask AI. It was pretty much me trying to figure it out journey. What is this condition? How do I live with it? What's going on? So my family and I didn't really know much. We were just like very uncertain. And then that's how I grew up. It was quite a lonely, only me, understanding myself sort of journey. And then when I got into like secondary school, into senior secondary school, I found out somebody else in my school had it because I could diagnose her early because I already had it. And then so when I diagnosed her, that was the first person I saw. And then after her, I started seeing more people that had it like 30 years, in churches, in the mall. I'll see children, I'll go to parents and say, oh, I think your child has scoliosis. You should check them out. And then when I finished university, I realized there was still no information. Nobody was talking about it. It was still just me and the people I knew. And so I thought, you know what? I don't want somebody else to have to go through what I went through. Like, can I start talking about this? Then can we start raising awareness just to talk about it really and say there's something called scoliosis. Here is what it is. If you have it, you don't have to like be alone. And then so I reached out to the only person I knew that I diagnosed earlier, and she's remarkable. And so we started this non-profit and to just started raising awareness really. Going on radio, going to schools, going to churches, wherever you just go and find parents or children, and to just talk about scoliosis so that people are aware and someone that has it is not alone. That's really, so it was like all these moments put together, me seeing people through the years, me being alone through the years, me understanding that there was nobody talking about it, and then doing something about it.
Right. I'd like you to expand a little bit more on that, because I know you've said about, how you got inspired, but what actually pushed you or encouraged you to create Beyond a Curved Spine? And is that with that person you diagnosed?
Yeah, so I think something happened actually. I had gone to the mall one day here in Nigeria. I went to Keja Mall and I think I went to KFC. And so the person who was attending to me, I noticed she had scoliosis. It was really bad. So I wrote her a note and said, oh, I think I know you have scoliosis. I have it too. Could you reach out to me? Here's my number so that we can talk about it and maybe I can get you help. Because I was trying to get help for myself, but I was trying to get help for her. But then, 2 days later, somebody calls me. A person goes, oh, my name is, a guy calls me. And he says his name and he says, oh, you came to KFC. I work there. She didn't call you because people were telling her that maybe you were a scam or you were going to use her to do jazz. I mean, there was a lot of distrust. But he's like, he doesn't have scoliosis, but he has this particular condition. Can I help? So I'm like, okay, let's try. So we did go and help. We did go, but that really touched me because I'm like, can you imagine? So I'm honestly trying to like help somebody, but then there's so much mistrust. People tell her that, oh, maybe I want to use her for jazz, or maybe I'm a scam or something. And so it's sort of like I felt like, you know what, something legit has to happen. Like there has to be something that's not just me, but a movement or a conversation that is not person, like it's not Abimbola, but it is something that people can trust. So that moment, honestly, it really got me thinking. And then I went back to the person that diagnosed me. We had a conversation, and she was like, "Oh, she's been thinking about it as well." And we decided to come together and to just start Beyond the Curved Spine. So it wasn't me, it wasn't her, it was Beyond the Curved Spine for anybody. It was a home one for anybody. So that could build trust, that could build some sort of credibility for people to say, oh, there's a movement or there's an organization here that I can reach out to. So that was something that I would say sort of marked me.
Right. That's interesting. From this answer of yours, I think I picked something up, which is like, it appeared to me now that there's a big myth around this. So does that mean that still, a lot of it surrounding scoliosis in Nigeria today?
Absolutely.
Can you expatiate on that?
Absolutely. Generally, there are myths about scoliosis, not just in Nigeria. I will touch on them a little, and then I'll talk about Nigeria in particular. People, for instance, feel like scoliosis is caused by heavy, bad posture or carrying a heavy school bag, but it's not. Most of the scoliosis cases we see, like 80% of it is idiopathic. And what that means is it doesn't have a known cause. It just happens to children, especially adolescents, from ages maybe 10 to 16, and 8 times more in girls than boys. So for every one boy that has scoliosis, you have 8 girls. Yes, so it's idiopathic again. They don't know why. We don't know why. Everybody loves women. I like to joke, everybody loves women. Scoliosis loves women too. So basically, we have more girls impacted. It usually starts from ages 10, 11. You just start to see the symptoms. So it's not caused by heavy school bag. It's not caused by bad posture. It just happens, and we're all trying to learn why it happens. In Nigeria, in particular, I think the biggest misconception I have seen is that people feel like it's a spiritual problem. that's the biggest misconception. People, that have scoliosis, a lot of people feel like, oh, it's some witchcraft or evil spirit or something that has plagued their children. And so you find them not seeking medical care, but trying to do like spiritual care. And, I remember somebody in particular who really touched me because she was a young girl whose parents took her to like a bone setter or like a herbalist sort of person. And the person had said, oh, it was an accumulation of bad blood that made her have scoliosis. So they were using bait to like cut her back. So she was so scared that, yeah, because they claimed they're going to drain the bad blood and then her back would be fine. But then they were cutting her with bait all over and then nothing happened. So I think the biggest misconception here is that it's a spiritual problem and it's from witches. I think the second biggest one would be that, well, it's not really scoliosis, but hunchback. And because people that have scoliosis sometimes have like a hunchback. So people feel like they're also good, like they're good for money rituals in some communities, in some villages, because they feel like your hump on your back contains mercury, and mercury is like heaven giving wealth. So people who have scoliosis in villages are at risk because they could be used for money rituals. But then people who in urban areas and in rural areas, both areas, you find the spiritual problem misconception. That is, I think, what I see.
I know when I asked you around the second question, you talked about detecting or diagnosing somebody. I want you to tell us a little bit more and why you think early detection is so critical for families.
Oh, absolutely. To detect early is like a lifesaver because scoliosis does not have 100% cure. When someone has scoliosis, they have it for life. But then there are treatment options, and then the earlier you detect it, the better for the child. Early detection would give the best treatment option. So we have 3 treatment options. We have like bracing or physiotherapy or surgery. So if you detect early, the child may not have to go through surgery. But anyways, back to the original question. It is very crucial because honestly, it could save an entire life. The fusion is not an easy thing, and I'm sure Mr. Chidi will speak more to that. But then to detect early would be to know the symptoms, which are very easy to see. So when you see a child that has like uneven shoulders, one shoulder is dropping, it could be scoliosis. When a child has like one shoulder blade higher than the other, or maybe when they bend over, you see like one part of their back is sort of more prominent. Or for a girl, when she wears skirts, you see that her hips are not even, or her skirt length is not even. So basically, just looking for asymmetry in a child. That's just the what I would say. Look for asymmetry. When the child is not straight, they're just sort of bending, unconsciously. They're just doing it naturally. That could be a huge scoliosis symptom. And I think it's very important to get it checked. It's so easy, simple, but it's crucial. It could save a life. Like, it's extremely crucial. It's early.
Well, thank you very much for that. I think at this point, I'd like to bring Chidi in. Now, turning to you, Chidi, when did your family first discover your daughter's condition? You're not audible. Okay.
You're muted.
You're muted. You're muted.
Apologies. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Fantastic. Yeah. So this would have been 2020. So about 4 years ago, I said 2022, just after COVID. She was actually in the dining eating, and I walked in and I looked at her and I thought, hey, Ifunanya, something is not right with you. And she was like, Dad, what do you mean? I said, can you stand up? I mean, till today, she's like, Daddy, how did you see that? So she was dressed up. She wasn't like naked eating or anything. She was fully dressed up. And I looked at her and I said, stand up. She stood up. And I said, are you in pain? I said, no. She wasn't in pain, nothing. I said, something doesn't look right here. So that was it, kind of, we left it. And after a while, I looked, a few weeks, months, and I thought, this doesn't look right, So she now started noticing it. I think the degradations started gradually. It's very tiny, you can't notice it. So the curve became more pronounced. Months, probably a year. And I thought, you know what, let's go for a routine check. So went to the doctors, they looked at her, not too sure. We then went to the hospital for kind of a major scan and all that kind of stuff. And that's when the word scoliosis was actually first mentioned. So we've never heard of it. I've never heard of it. I have no clue. I didn't even know how to spell it, you know. So, so again, so that lets us down the path of, you know, X-rays, specialist consultation, all those kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of the first discovery. And what we noticed was after about a year, it became more pronounced.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Now, also as a father, what emotional challenges did you personally face as a father?
So initially, you know, I wasn't perturbed. You know, I thought, okay, this is just something, you know, we'll put some braces or something. And, you know, when I started reading about it, there are those options. But when we then went for the first major scan, they told us that, and I think Abi will be able to correct me here, it's been a while, but they told us if the curve is about 0 to 20 degrees, it's kind of mild and, you know, it's open to correction through braces and all this kind of stuff. 20 to 50, you know, it's medium, you know, they can still do something. Above 50, you know, it's acute. Okay. So at the time, I think she was about 70. So, you know, it was more than acute. And he told us, you know, I remember the doctor. So we had to go to a specialist hospital called the Royal National Orthopedic in Stanmore, world class. And they told us, this is the option. Of course, I mean, who wants a surgery? You know, by the time they went through that, you're talking about the spine. And it wasn't just that, you know, because of the acuteness of the curve. At this point, she was about 71. They said the surgery. Anyway, I took it back. I said, you know, we need to think about this. So I went, you know, myself and my wife, we said, okay. I went and started investigating. I went, looked at South Africa, I looked at, you know, different places. But emotionally, I kind of felt a sense of helplessness, you know, especially when you see a child facing a physical challenge that you can't actually fix with a bandage or, you know, something very simple, you know. And I think at the time when they talked about surgery, they talked about, you know, being off school. So now when we, you know, so lots of things were going on. She was trying to do her GCSE, and she's just one of those girls. It was just so much going on, Anthony. And I think for us, for me personally, I couldn't care less about her education. You know, all I wanted her was just become well. You know, of course, you know, there's risks. They told us all about all these things, and all those things did play a part in my emotional balance. My wife was, of course, very, very worried. But you know what? Knowledge is power. So, and thank God for Google. You know, I dug myself into Google. I mean, I went into all the different societies, read everything readable, reached out to South Africa. I actually reached out to Nigeria as well. But yeah, so that's kind of in terms of, you know, the emotional thing. And I think also trying to balance work in terms of what I do. So I run a few companies here in the UK and in Nigeria. So I was, you know, trying to look at all that and trying to prioritize. And of course, you know, I had to prioritize my child's health, which meant a lot of things had to suffer in terms of business. But, you know, we had to navigate even the complex healthcare system. All that required a kind of, you could say, and I don't like to use the word military, but military coordination, that's what it required. You have to be precise in terms of dealing with all the, balancing all that. Yeah.
Just to delve into that area a little bit more, why did you decide to now seek that treatment in the UK? Based on what you just said.
So, thank you. I actually looked at all the options. I looked at Nigeria. Just to tell you how big I did, I actually found somebody a lady, you won't believe it, in her I think she was 67 at the time, and she had gone for an operation in Nigeria for scoliosis at 67, and it was successful. I mean, I think after about a month, she was moving around easily. So that kind of gave me comfort, and it was through a friend. I looked at South Africa. I had a few doctors in South Africa. And my friend told me, look, South Africa probably has one of the best healthcare in the world, and that it will be a lot cheaper there and everything. Now, the reason why I decided to go for the UK, and I think it's kind of very obvious, we're here already. When I met the doctor, I asked the doctor, great guy, great doctor, look at his resume. I read his whole resume, everything. So I came to the meeting. I said, meanwhile, just to go back, he had told us about the surgery. So I said, we'll go home and think about it. By the time we came back again, about 6 months, 7 months time, the curve was now 75 degrees. So it was increasing. So I said to him, what's going to happen? And he said, well, if we don't do anything, because I was thinking this surgery, I mean, I was really scared. We were scared. And I asked him, I said, look, Dr. Mokoyam, do you have children? And he said, yes. I said, how many kids do you have? He said, he has 2 girls. I said, what ages are they? So just for the audience, at the time, my girl was about 15. I think when I first discovered she was 13 when I first discovered this. So we're going on a journey. We didn't jump into this. And I said, you have, he said 2 girls. I said, how old? 11 and 14, I remember at the time. I said, doctor, if this was your daughter, what would you recommend? What would you do? Oh my goodness, that threw him off his feet, And of course, you have to be political about this. And he says, he's been doing this for, 15 years, surgery. They do it every day, and 99% of the time is successful. 1%, it could be damaged spine, it could be paralyzed for life, So I said, well, if that's the case, we'll go for the surgery. And of course, I asked, without the surgery, what happens? I said, okay, there might be 1 degree, but my girl is into sports, hockey, basketball, running, all those kind of stuff. And I said, so that means she won't be able to do those things anymore. So I thought, okay. And you know what? We trust, our lives are either gifts or accidents. So either I came here into the world by an accident or it's a gift. And if there's a gift, there has to be a giver. And I want to believe we're not here by accident. So I chose that each of us are a gift. And there is a giver. And in my perspective, the giver is a higher being, God. I said, okay, we'll go for it. So why UK? By the time I finished with the guy discussing, I said, look, we're closer home. Let's do this here. It's about an hour, 30 minutes from home. We can easily go there every day, whatever it takes. And yeah, so we went for it. My wife was sleeping in the hospital. And that's another good thing about UK. The care is top notch. Great. They had a bed next to her where my wife could sleep. So, it was comfortable. Lovely hospital. Brilliance. Beyond brilliance. So yeah, on the day of the surgery, this is a 6-hour surgery, just for people to know this. Has been a 6-hour surgery. Why? So what they said, first of all, is because of the acuteness, they had to do one from the side and another one from the back. So they will do the first one, which they've now done the first one. We have a 6 months appointment just to see how it's going so far. But so far, so good. She's still in pain, which they say she will be. This is about 6 months ago we did the surgery. But you know what? On the day, oh my goodness. I mean, I must have been seen by 4 or 5 different teams. They came to us and said, look, I'm in charge of blood transfusion. I'm in charge of anesthesia. I mean, different teams just on one person. I just thought, what is going on here? So that's why we chose UK. The support, pre-support, on-the-day support, and post-support has been fantastic.
I think it's appropriate for us to actually acknowledge NHS as well for that job well done. Thank you for giving us that information. Now, what advice would you give to parents watching us right now?
So I think initially it's to trust your gut. If you see something unusual, I think Abim mentioned some of the signs to look out for. If it's unusual, look into it. Yeah, if it's unusual, look into it. If you notice something that is off with your child's back or shoulder, don't wait. Seek specialist opinion. If you're in Nigeria, you have Abim here, they can link you to doctors, and I'm sure she's going to talk more about this. Secondly, educate yourself. Don't abandon yourself in the hands, because I actually looked at the option of, why can't we put braces? We talked about that, and they told me what they were doing. They had to basically put titanium in between her discs, so titanium metal in between her discs to make it happen. That braces is not going to work in this situation. So educate yourself. Information is the best antidote to fear. Learn the difference between all the different angles and the different treatment. Tell yourself, my daughter also educated herself. So she was less fearful than myself. She had watched YouTube, she had watched the operation. I didn't watch the operation, but she had watched the operation, she had done all these things. And kudos to her, because it also has inspired her, because she now wants to go and do, she just got an offer. She went for an interview with the Imperial College to do biomedical engineering, and that's what she wants to do. So she needs to now get her grades to get into Imperial to do that. But educate yourself, and then, build a support system. Don't carry the burden alone. Look for trusted people. Connect with organizations. If you're in Nigeria, reach out to Abim. She will connect you with people in the UK. Reach out to the GPs. There's a Scoliosis Society here in the UK. I went to them. I looked at different things. I looked at the private healthcare. I looked at everything possible. So educate yourself, get a support system, and trust your gut. Trust your feeling. Trust that initial instinct.
Oh, Chidi, I mean, each time you give your response, it kind of lead me into, giving me the clue or cue for my next question, So, from this experience you've shared with us, how has it changed your perspective on advocacy and awareness?
I mean, first of all, I use the word, is humanized my perspective. People are not just, wood to be treated. Each person has a special journey. As Anthony, I run a few organizations, and I'm a consultant, and I deal with systems and strategies, but this journey kind of has taught me that healthcare policy is ultimately about people's lives and dignity. Each person is individual. Advocacy, I use that word, advocacy. Health advocacy is not just for activists. It's a responsibility for all of us. And that's one of the reasons, if not primarily the reason, why I decided to come to this show, because it's always difficult to get hold of me. And especially on a Saturday, I just play 3 hours of table tennis. I'm not sure. I think I've done about 15,000 steps already today. So I'm knackered. Normally by this time, I should be in my foam bath, having a foam bath and chilling for 1 hour inside the foam bath. But this topic is very, very important. And this whole thing about personal pain to purpose is part of that advocacy. So, as I said, it's a responsibility for all of us. If sharing my own and our family story can shorten the diagnostic time for somebody out there, for another child, or give another father or mother courage to seek help, then our pain has indeed found a purpose.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you, sir.
For your honesty, for your courage, and for sharing your journeys. Now, it's time to hear from our viewers. If you have a question, if you have an experience, or if you need guidance, you can call in. The number is on our screen and be added to the live session, or type your question in the chat box. I must tell you, this is a safe space. We are here to listen to you. So, please, I will inform our technical team. They will post all the questions, and then I will, just read them out. Right. I think the first one I have here, it's a very important question. Many families may be going through this silently. Abimbola, what would you say to someone feeling afraid right now?
Well, so I don't think fear is, I think fear is normal, because when you have scoliosis, there's a lot of uncertainty, and that's the truth. Because it's not like malaria. It's not like you can just take drugs or something. There's a lot of moving parts. And if you're in a place like Nigeria where things are not linear, things are you have health issues, it's linked to education, it's linked to poverty, it's just linked to all kinds of things. I think fear is normal, but I think even in the midst of fear, it's very, like Mr. Chidi said, it's very important to seek knowledge. A lot of us like bask in ignorance, especially in this part of the world. We don't like to read. We don't like to. We have a lot of like cultural limitations. We don't talk about it. Hush, hush. We've seen people who are like hush, hush. Don't talk about it. They're going to look at us somehow. They're going to think you have to like choose what's best. Choose to live and choose to like to gain knowledge. Just ask somebody a simple message to someone. Like for instance, in Beyond the Coastline, we have a support group of like people who have scoliosis. You can reach out to somebody, and I'm sure they're happy to share their story. Just hearing somebody's story could inspire you. Just asking a question could inspire you. So I think the first thing is to, in the midst of that fear, get up and just speak. Get up and look for an open door. Just look for somebody to connect. Look for somebody legit. You could even email somebody in the UK. I speak to doctors who are abroad all the time. When I was talking about Stanmore, I was nodding because I know, like, I have a very legit close doctor who's in Stanmore. And so I do all of these things. Like internet we're in a global village. Just one DM, just one LinkedIn, an email. Somebody's going to respond to you. You will always find help. So just get help wherever you are. Get help. Get up and get help. Don't stay there in the midst of that fear. Get help. That's the first thing I'll say to anybody who's feeling afraid right now.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Chidi. From a parent's point of view, how can families stay strong? Just on the back of what Abimbola just said.
Yeah, I think fear. So let me just give you a statistic just to answer that question. 75% of marriages break down after they lose a child. So when you think they should come together, that's when there's chaos, because somebody's blaming each other. Okay? So there is a very strong need for both parties to educate themselves and remove the fear. Okay? That's number one. Number two is there is no blame game here. Okay? And like Abim said, we do not know what the cause or the causation of scoliosis is. So when you have it, there is no need of dwelling why. You dwell on solution. Okay? And once you do that, you're joined together looking for a solution. Okay? So that's one of the things I would say to eliminate that fear, because there would be chaos. And we see it all the time. You see it all the time. Somebody loses a child, and there's chaos, there's fighting, and before you know it, the whole family is destroyed. So yeah, that's what I would say.
All right. No, viewers, please keep sending your questions. We are seeing them. If you are learning something new today, kindly share this live stream. Awareness begins with conversation. So my next question.
Before your next question, Anthony, sorry.
Yeah.
Just to talk about, I think, fear again. That fear would be, people, I'm sure they are thinking, is it curable? So I'm going to tell you, as I said, my daughter, for those that joined in late, she was on acute, and Abim will tell you this, 75 degrees is seriously acute. She needs 2 operations to get it straightened. Now, is it curable? I don't want to use the word curable. Right now, when we finished the operation, the first week, she was literally in bed, okay? She couldn't move out. 6 months today, I danced with her in a party. Yeah, so she can now dance. She hasn't got into sports yet, but she will get there. So for people who are worried, don't be scared. Read, see where your child is, and take the plunge. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. You actually answered that question. I just want to read, how expensive is the surgery, and is there any support for families with this issue in Nigeria? Abim, do you want to take that since you are in Nigeria?
I'm sure. So there's really no one, there's no price band, if I'd say. It would depend on the degree of curvature. That determines how bad the curve. The worse the curve, the more expensive the surgery would be, because the surgery, like Chidi had said, it involves putting titanium rods in the back and screws, and so a bigger curve would consume more resources, and so it will be more expensive. But so that I can't give a price point. You could have a surgery that's like, I think maybe from 7 million upwards would be fair, depending on the stages. Some people have like double stage, some people have triple stage, actually, surgeries, depending on how bad it is. Is there any support for families? So for instance, our organization, Beyond the Curved Spine, we try to get support, like medical support and psychosocial support. So if you're talking counseling and psychosocial support, yes, we have that. If you're talking medical, we do try to organize something we've done yearly now. It's called the Scoliosis Surgery Week, where we try to get like discounted pricing. We can't afford to do like free surgeries at the moment, but what we can afford to do is get donations. So for instance, last year we got a company in America to give us free implants. So if we do get free implants, that takes a huge chunk of the cost of families. So you can always reach out to us and to see if we have any ongoing discounts, or if we're able to get like free stuff, free implants or equipment, or resource. Yeah, basically equipment using surgery for families. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. Chidi, I think I can see a question here, which I think you actually spoken about earlier, but I would like you to, elaborate a little bit on it for this viewer. How can parents detect scoliosis early in their children?
I think the key thing is, don't go searching for disease or searching for imperfection. But, that's not what we want. But if, for example, I don't know how small, but if, for example, you bathe your kids, depending on what age they are, you're in close contact with your kids. Like I mentioned, I think this person may have missed the early part of what I said. My daughter was actually eating in the dining table when I looked at her and she just didn't look right. So you got to be interested. You know, people, especially with gadgets and phones and tablets, people don't connect with people anymore. One of the things, and one of the sad things over the years, you know, recently, I started getting when we are together, all together, there's no gadgets on the phone. But when people are on their own eating, they have their gadgets and they're eating. We need to be focusing all the time on our children. Okay, let's be there. It's not being just physically there. Your mind should be there when you're with somebody speaking. You will look at them. So that's how I saw it. So don't go looking out for anything. But if you look at their shoulders, for example, it's one bent. Yeah, that's a small sign. The curvature, right? Are they standing? Are they walking somehow? You might think like Abim said, oh, she they walk like guy. She they do guy when she they walk. But that's actually her posture. So that's a sign. Watch their posture. So yeah, that's how you will actually go about detecting it. There's no pain sometimes initially. There's no pain. It's just as it gets more acute. So it was only during the latter months, probably a year before her surgery, that the pain came up.
Right. This is for Abimbola, and it's an interesting question. Does herbs and local procedures cure scoliosis in Nigeria? Trust our people.
Okay, so this is interesting because I personally, like, I'm a naturopath. I did go to school to study herbs because I believe in the healing power of herbs and medicines, and I use herbs a lot. So I am very pro herbs. Albeit, in fact, when I was in school, I was asking, I'm like, do we have something for scoliosis? And my teacher was like, maybe you find out, maybe you need to like figure that out. I haven't figured it out. I don't know. But currently, it's a no. Herbs do not cure scoliosis. Local procedures do not cure scoliosis. It's not a bone problem. So, for instance, you have bone people say, "Oh, it's a bone thing. I can help to rearrange the bone." No, it's a spine problem. And so, if you, for instance, watch a surgery, I have been privileged to be in theater. I've seen the surgery done in real time. So you see that it's actually in the spinal vertebrae. It's not a bone issue. So the bone center is not just going to set the back straight. It's something that can affect the spine, that can set the spine straight. And the spine is delicate, it's in the vertebrae, it's a whole lot of medical stuff. So no, what herbs can do for you maybe pain, if you have pain and you take like painkillers or herbs to sort of like help you relax, but then to actually treat scoliosis, it's a no. It's no.
Thank you very much for that. Chidi, I've got a comment for you here. They
Go
say
ahead.
if anyone can dance with Chidi, they are definitely cured. Because Chidi can dance all day and night, even without music.
Oh my goodness. Who is that? We need to know who that is. That's someone that knows my secrets.
Please, to our
But yeah,
viewers.
I just want to touch on what Abim said
Oh,
about
yeah, please go
herbs.
ahead. Go
And
ahead.
you
Go
know,
ahead.
I mean, my daughter will say, "Daddy, please, no lemon, no ginger, no garlic. Please save me from Daddy." But you know what? Like she said, one of the things my daughter post, and I'm talking about post surgery now, is she body pain. They gave her all these morphine and all these things, and she refused to take them. And that's because she's been reading about the addiction. Mind you, she's, at the time she was 16 or 17. Yeah, 16, yeah, to 17. So she had been reading about the addiction and how. So after hospital, we were surprised. She avoided a lot of those pain. So she would drink, herbal tea, just kind of relax her and all this kind of. But she did avoid all those painkillers. But sometimes you can't avoid them. But yeah, I wish herbs could cure it. I'm sure she would have been cured because I have all the herbs in this house.
Wow. I have a comment here, which is very interesting. My cough was 151 degree. I had a 3-stage surgery. Wow. What can we say to that? Any word of encouragement?
Yeah, well,
I could, yeah. I mean, I got word of encouragement. So, as I said, they told us my daughter will have 2-stage surgery. So one from the side and one from the back. For 3-stage surgery, big kudos. Absolutely big kudos. I mean, the bravery it takes after one surgery. I think it's almost the same bravery that a woman, I remember first seeing a woman deliver a baby. And I'm thinking, how come women have more than one child? I mean, you go through this labor and you come out and you go back again. And and I have friends. I mean, my wife went 5 times, I have friends that have gone 8 times. And I'm thinking, what kind of bravery is that? So big kudos on that 3-stage. And I think one of the things I would say is physio. Don't step back. Keep doing the physio. Ensure you engage physiotherapists. Don't take it for granted. In terms of, people are asking about recovery process. My daughter, as I said, she did the surgery 6 months ago. It took about, she was off sick from school for about a month, maybe 6 weeks, and gradually started going into school. Good support system. Her friends will carry her bag. So we drop her in school. Somebody will come to the car, carry her bag for her, all those kind of things. But you have to be a good student to be able to. I mean, if you're nasty in school, people are just going to leave you. So you got to be good as well, yeah, for you to get that support system from your friends. So recovery, typically, I would say, they told us 1 year for recovery, full recovery. But like I said, she's moving around now, 6 months after the surgery.
Good. Abim, too. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to shout out to Debbie, the person who commented about the 3-stage, because we were part of her journey. I've been part of her journey for a while, and I remember I did see her surgery. So shout out to you. You're strong. Thanks for joining. She's amazing. And because she did go through surgery as an adult, so that's even why I said she's really strong. Because it's one thing to do surgery when you're young, and then one thing to do surgery when you're older. But so for her in Nigeria, so if you have really severe cough, so the first thing they do for you is a traction. Well, I think in the UK they don't do tractions anymore because they find this sort of grueling. It is actually quite traumatic. But here you have to go through a traction to sort of stretch you, and then you go through an anterior, which is the side, and then you go through a posterior, which is the back. Hence the stages. But Debbie, shout out to you anyways. Love. For the recovery process, I also think that like Mr. Chidi has said, it differs. Different people have for children it's pretty fast. Like I've seen kids, jump off, but then for adults it's a bit slower. Also, we pray you don't ask for complications, but some people have complications. I know somebody who had the surgery and her back sort of ripped, and you could actually see the rods, so she had to stay for months. But I think all things being equal, in 6 weeks, you're good to go. You're on your feet. You're able to do some things. But then over the whole year, you have to know when, for each milestone, it's peculiar. You have to know each milestone. You can't bend, for instance, you can't bend over. You can't lift heavy stuff. So there are some things that the doctor is going to tell you based on your condition that you have to follow. For some people, it's faster. For some, it's slower. Yeah, but I think it's more peculiar. But all things being equal, in like Mr. Chidi said, I think his daughter is the normal, is a proper, all things being equal, case study. She should be back on her feet in no time, resume school in no time. But then it takes a while to get back to normal activities and then to be strong.
Fantastic.
And just to add to that, apologies, just to add to that, in terms of people asking about recovery processes and what have been said, you also have to put certain things in place. So, for example, little things. When she came back from hospital, we had to get a raised toilet because she cannot stoop. So we had to get a raised toilet for both upstairs and downstairs to give her that option. Number 2, we had to get a shower, one of these raised shower chairs, with a hole so that she can bathe. So you gotta, support her. using pillow to support the place, all those kind of things. Those are the things that help recovery, and slowly begin to do little physios. Because what happens is, why recovery takes longer is people just stay still in bed on a chair. That means the body is not moving. So you've got to make sure they are moving. So, and that movement, if you can't afford a physio, go to YouTube and get some physio classes, some little exercises, and that's what she was doing to recover quicker.
Fantastic. If you are just joining us, you are watching NCCP Live. Today, we are discussing scoliosis awareness and turning pain into purpose. Please continue to share, comment, and participate. Now, I'm going to go back to the screen. You can see the question. I think I would like you to take that, Abimbola, and then Chidi can also, lend a hand. What mistakes do parents commonly make when dealing with scoliosis?
Okay, so I think based on experience, I think the first thing I've seen parents do here in Nigerian context is to sort of hide their children, their children. You'll be surprised how many parents care about society. I mean, we're in society, but when your child is different, there's the shame, and parents sort of bear that shame, and they feel like, oh, don't talk about it. Let's sort of like keep it low. Let's manage it. So just being secretive about it, I think I'm not saying go on social media and announce that, oh, my child is different, but I'm saying like have the courage to actually step out and find out what's going on. Talk to other parents about it. Like just sort of like figure out what's going on with your child, not just hide it and think it will go away, or think by using aboniki and massaging the child for a while, it will go away. I think first, yes, thank you, Debbie. Living in denial, like you need to. This is for real. This is scoliosis for real. It will get worse. That's the reality. Scoliosis always progresses. It just depends on the curvature degree. If it was like a little, maybe like 4 degrees, the child is probably safe for life. But if it was like 50 degrees, it's going to get worse. It's a fact. So just face the facts. Face the reality that we don't know what causes this thing. It's idiopathic. Face the uncertainties, and then start to figure out what's best for your child. Also supporting your child. Parents, when a child has scoliosis, they're a different child. So that means that if your children always fetch water, for instance, are carrying their head, that child should be exempt. If your children are always lifting heavy stuff, that child has to be considered. Like you have to make lifestyle adjustments for your child's sake. But it first begins with not living in denial, trying to understand the condition, accepting the realities, the facts, and then seeking help, and then doing what's best for your child. Your child is not like every child. It doesn't make the child like different in a bad way. It just means that they're navigating life with something that's different, and you have to support them. And I think that's what parents need to do when dealing with scoliosis.
Thank you, Chidi.
Yeah, I think there is something within our Black community when it comes to illness, not just scoliosis, cancer. People just keep quiet, as if it's a curse. It's not a curse. Even the biggest, the richest, like Steve Jobs, they all have disease. Anything, it can happen to anybody. You can go to the doctor checks your veins, your blood pressure, says, you know what, Chidi, you are in fantastic shape. And you just come out of the doctor's GP and you drop dead. Nobody's in control of this. So, like somebody said, we shouldn't live in denial. We need to open up. The more you open up, you never know where help is going to come from. You don't know. So people need to stop this whole hush, hush, hush about illness. I've seen, sadly, friends of mine. I'm not just talking about distant friends, close friends that have passed away over the years just because nobody knew they had, especially cancer. What's wrong with having cancer? There's nothing wrong with that. It's not you didn't do anything to merit it. Let's think of solution. Let's remove the whys and focus on the solution. That's what we parents can do.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that heads up. Abimbola, there's a comment for you here, which I'd like you to address. It said, just 1 minute. Shout out to Abims. So proud of you, Abimbola. And what is your NGO is doing in Nigeria? You know, do you want to talk about your NGO a little bit so that people, our viewers, can know about your NGO and how they can reach out to you?
Thank you so much. That's my sister friend. That's all. Thank you. Yes. So the name of my nonprofit I've co-founded, or this nonprofit, I don't like to say mine, but yeah, it's called Beyond the Curved Spine. It's a scoliosis advocacy and support organization. So what that means is we try to raise awareness for scoliosis and then also provide support, psychosocial support and medical support for people that have scoliosis in Nigeria. We're on social media, we're on Instagram. We have a website. You can send us a mail. Like, you can reach out to us via websites, you know, via email, via Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter. Yeah, so basically that's what we do to support us. I mean, there are many ways. You can send in donations, you could share our work, you could contribute skills. We need skills all the time, you know, so we have folks who are like, oh, for the next 4 months, I'm going to do graphics. For the next 4 months, I'm going to go raise awareness. You could also decide to raise awareness in your own place. We absolutely always support that and love that. You know, we have people who are in the communities raising awareness, and we're happy to support. So basically, it's not just about one person. It's not a me thing. This is an us thing, and that's how I see Beyond the Curved Spine. It's a home for people that have scoliosis in Nigeria. And in a nutshell, that's what we do. And for more information, you can just come on our website, read our impact report, see more of what we do, and how you can support. So, yes.
Thank you very much, Bim. Chidi, please, I'd like you to take this question. How can we promote openness in our society?
Before I answer that question, I just saw a comment. That's from our guy. If anyone can dance with you, they are definitely killed. Right? So I saw Abim do this. I'm going to learn how to do this. So this is it. Love to the chair of Over 50s Black Men Forum. So good. So
thank you for joining us, sir.
Yeah. So what was that question again? Let's go back to that question again.
Well, it's how can we promote openness in our society?
I think it's so Over 50s Black Men Forum, just to use this example, we're actually doing a research with the University of York. And that research is to destigmatize, to remove the stigma from prostate cancer. So what we need to do in terms of openness is to say, and you know what, and I'm going to quote something from the gospel. And they said, this man that is blind, is he blind because of the sins of his father or his grandfather? And the master says, none of them. We need to remove this whole old thinking, whether it's a religious sector or whatever it is, that when somebody is sick, and I think I've been mentioned this earlier on, there is a curse or a witchcraft and all this rubbish. We do not know the cure or the cause for some of these things. What we need to focus on is the cure. So how can we promote openness? We need to embrace people, not to keep them at a distance. If you see somebody who is sick, embrace them as somebody who is unique in their own way and look for ways to support them. I mentioned earlier on about that support system from the family, from friends, from societies. We need to engage more with those support structure. Once we have that support structure, be open, and then everything else will fall into place. There is nothing wrong in being sick. What is wrong is not educating yourself and understanding why or the solution to your illness. That's what's wrong.
That's very, very deep. Thank you very much. I think I can see more questions coming, even comments, thanks to Bax. thanks to NCCP. This is very interesting. So please, viewers, we would like you to, get us more questions before we decide to. Yeah, I need to learn how to do that as well. So I need to learn how to do that. Okay, all right. Bimbo and Chidi, as we begin to round up, I would like to sincerely thank our guest as well, Abimbola Oladapo, for transforming personal struggle into national advocacy. Mr. Chidi Umeano, for reminding us that parental courage can change outcomes. Your voice are creating awareness, I must say. And know what? Awareness saves lives. I would also like to appreciate the Nigerian High Commission in the United Kingdom and NIDCOM, Nigerian in Diaspora Commission, for supporting initiatives that strengthen diaspora engagement and community well-being. To our viewers, remember this: pain can shape you, but purpose can define you. Fear can silence you, but awareness can empower you. And when communities come together, healing becomes possible. My name is Otunba Oluwafemi Kolade. This has been NCCP Live. Until next time, stay informed, stay connected, stay compassionate. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.